right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Berea Planning Commission Work and Business Session. Couple of things on the agenda tonight, but just to kind of give you a brief explanation on everything. I know some of you may be here tonight for a public hearing, and if you are, at the time that if you are going to make any comments or have any questions or anything like that, we'd ask that you come to one of the podiums and be sure and state your name so we can get all that down in the minutes and everything. That would be great. And then commissioners, be also mindful of your microphones as you have questions and comments about things that go on during the hearing or during the meeting in general. So we're going to start off with a work session. We've got a couple of speakers tonight. The Planning Commission has been diving into housing. We've been getting lots of good data and information for the state as well as the county and our little neck of the woods here in Berea. So and we're continuing that on tonight as we have a guest speaker, Brian Kirby from Habitat for Humanity, and then we will also hear from Sarah Morgan representing FAHI. So we'll start with Mr. Kirby first.
And thank you all for having me tonight. My name is Brian Kirby. I'm president of Habitat for Humanity of Madison and Clark County. See some familiar faces here. It's nice to see that. First, let me give you just a quick background on Habitat for Humanity. I know you may know a lot about it, but let's just in case. Habitat for Humanity is on its 50th year, created in 1974. And whose mission, a faith-based mission to create affordable housing, utilizing all the resources of a community, volunteer labor and financial resources. Here in Madison County, we were first formed in 1992, so this is our 32nd year. And to date, we've produced, and this is between Madison and Clark County, 142 units now. Housing units, all single-family units. These are modest homes. They range from maybe 900 square feet up to 1,200 plus, depending on the number of bedrooms that each individual family may need. Our mission is to provide decent, safe, and sanitary homes for working folks that fall in a median household income range, and this is for Madison County only, earning $30,000 to $36,000. Again, this is a vague range here. It's an approximate range based on the county's, like I said, median household income. Now, the way Habitat works is we refer to this as a hand up, not a hand out. Families are expected, if you're selected after your credit's been reviewed, after your work history's been reviewed, and also look at the conditions of where you're living now, the rental housing, the condition that it's in. Once you've been selected in that fashion, you are required to put in 350 hours of labor into the building of your home. Now, if you've got some issues, we can put you to work putting stamps on postcards or whatever, but it's 350 hours, so that's what we refer to as sweat equity. On our end, we have to secure the land, we secure donations, we secure grants, typically federal grants, Federal Home Loan Bank, for example, and the donations. Then we provide as much volunteer labor as we possibly can. Let me be clear though, we don't try to interfere with the trades, professional trades. It'll be a concrete company doing the foundation, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. We're going to leave that to the pros, but we can come in with volunteers and do so much of this work. It keeps the costs down, and it helps us pull our neighbors up. And that's what the whole thing is about. A lot of people think we're giving these homes away like it's a doggone sweepstakes or something. Well, it isn't. You're required, again, talked about the credit score, talked about work histories, the type of thing. There's a minimum income requirement there, so you've got to have that. You need to come to us with a $1,500 down payment. Now, let me stop there. We are giving you credit lessons throughout this, credit enhancement lessons. We're teaching you about home ownership. We're teaching you about budgeting. All this is in the process of preparing while we're getting the planning to build the actual home. This all gets done so that we have a commitment from you that you are willing and ready to become a homeowner. And at that time, we get to work. It is a zero interest mortgage. Whatever the appraised price is, it's a zero price mortgage, typically 20-year, but the way prices are going up, we're having to maybe alter that to a 30-year mortgage, which is not unusual, just like the bank. So technically, we're a lender, but we're a zero interest lender. So you're paying principal payments for 20, 30 years, whichever, to us. After the course, there's no tricks. Just at the end of it, you've paid it all off. It's all yours, and we have a celebration. We also have a family nurturing committee, so we try to keep in touch with our families and help them throughout their lives out that 20 or 30 years. Now, so just so I'm very clear that they're making mortgage payments to us, and we're going to act like a bank. And if you stop making your payments, again, we're going to act like the bank. We'll take homes back if we have to. So we are there to help our neighbors. Now, I applaud you all for trying to look at the affordable housing issue, because it's going to be a crisis throughout. Sarah will tell you more about the numbers here, but we know that the shortage of affordable homes for Madison County alone is a large number. It's a very large number. We are coming out slowly from COVID. COVID really hit us hard. We were actually restricted from having volunteers on the job sites. So we had to go with a private contractor and that sort of thing. So we're starting to rebuild, and we're ready to roll. We want to start building. But the things we're lacking is land, because we're competing with all the builders out there that may not be building an affordable unit. We have to compete for the land with them. So land is a very, very important element for us. Capital, of course, is always going to be an issue. There's no magic pool of federal bucks out there for nonprofit housing agencies like us. Doesn't exist. We've got small pools. We get a little, and we're grateful for what we get. And we keep on it every single day to try to get access to that. So I would say to you then that for us to move forward as, I guess, the prominent nonprofit affordable housing builder and developer in Madison County, I put to you that land and capital is what we need. Other communities have tried to find solutions to this. Over the years, some communities have had to utilize eminent domain to, if there's blighted, dilapidated properties, they have to take over. They can deed those over to a nonprofit such as ourselves. That has helped us a great deal. We just rarely get a gift of land. However, Hope Estates, which is down Scaffold Cane Road, I wish you'd go down there and look at it. It's a great little neighborhood. We're very proud of that. We got the land for that, and we were able to make that very successful. In fact, we went back. It's a program called Rock the Block. We went back, and since it's been 25 or 26 years, the homeowners are a little bit older, and they can't redo their deck. So we gave everybody a hand, a little exterior cleanup there for them, kind of a fix-up. But anyway, so those are the challenges that we have. Now, like I said, some cities are finding ways to not just a land bank, which a land bank is just what it sounds like, is just if you've accumulated property as a community, you accumulate that property, banking it for the future. That's one way. Another way communities are trying to, and Lexington's a prime example of this, is they have actually set up an affordable housing fund that can come in on each basis, each home, on the basis of need there. What's interesting is communities have a variety of ways of doing this, it can be a pure grant to the homeowner, a pure grant to Habitat. It can also be a deferred second mortgage. So the second mortgage is there, but it's deferred until the end of the 20-year or 30-year period. So there's different ways of doing this so that any investment by any community from an affordable housing fund, then were it to be recaptured, let's say someone hits a lottery and sells the house and moves away, that's fine. That second mortgage is paid back and it's recycled for the next homeowner and the next and the next. So we have just some different ways, and we're hoping to reach out to Berea and Richmond and Winchester as well to discuss in the future an affordable housing fund that will give us the ability to continue to build and to really ramp up the building that we want to do here. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions of the panel, commissioners?
I do real quick. First off, thanks for coming. And secondly, on average, housing starts here in Berea and Madison County, what does that look like per year?
Again, we're way, way down.
Okay.
In Madison County, we were probably averaging probably 3 at one point in time, 4 houses a year.
Okay.
In Clark County, about the same. We had a big build over there. John helped us with, as a matter of fact. We had a big build there that was where we built 6 homes. We had to do that in 2 years. Does that sound about right? Yeah, 2 years. So Winchester's really, let's just say 2 or 3 there. And we want to ramp up to make that a much larger number.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Are all these single-family standalone units?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. That's a good question here. I talked about the square footage, but it'll be a slab. It may be a block foundation. Just depends on the site. Again, there's a modest square footage depending on the family. It'll be 1 bathroom, sometimes 2 bathroom. We're trying to be very careful because some of us with gray hair want to age in place. So we want one of the bathrooms to have ADA accessibility, just be large enough, that sort of thing, to kind of look toward their future, the family's future. All the rest is fairly modest, vinyl siding, vinyl flooring typically, but we put a lot of extra touches in there too, and they are very energy efficient. We really look for that. We try to strive to do that. So that gives us a better, solid, efficient home for these families.
I would ask, what is this, I guess you call it success rate? So how many people, or maybe average of people that actually make it through that 20-year loan that becomes their home, or vice versa, what's kind of that turnover rate?
Wow, that's a tough number.
Or
I
in
would
general, do you see more
I would
people?
say 90% are successful.
Okay,
10% we may have some issues with delinquencies, and in the rare instance we will have foreclosures,
okay,
and we won't hesitate to do that anymore.
okay.
But we have, I think, a great success rate. And I think our delinquency rate, whether you're off by a month or whatever, our delinquency rate now is reduced to mirror that of private banks. So that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. The mortgage payments, the principal-only mortgage payments that people are making comes back to us, and that we recycle that to build more homes. So it's administrative cost to build more homes, keep the ball rolling. Just forgot to mention that.
I want to thank you again. My father volunteered for years and years, Habitat in Danville.
Yeah, that's
don't know if
that's a great affiliate over there.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 homes.
It is addictive, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I tried to walk away, but they just keep pulling me back. What movie is that from? They keep pulling me back.
So, how does the second mortgage work? I mean, what is that money used for?
The second mortgages, they're okay. The federal ones, Federal Home Loan Bank, now you can correct me, I don't mind at all, because John's really good at Federal Home Loan Bank grants here, but it's a 5-year, right? Okay.
So with Habitat, the way that it works, if I can step in just
Thank
one
you,
second. So I
please.
was the assistant treasurer for a few years ago, back when they were doing a project in Winchester primarily. And while I was involved, we were very proudly partnered with local contractors. Volunteers took a very different role in the organization. And we were able to build 7 homes in about 2 years.
Yep.
I don't believe a home has been built subsequent to that project. But the way the mortgage works is the difference between the appraised value of the home and the part the family can afford, we put in a second forgivable mortgage that the homeowner does not have to pay as long as they live in the home until that first mortgage is paid off. And kind of the purpose of that is to protect the equity in the home. That way it cannot be resold for a profit. Other reasons we put a second mortgage on, some of our grants would require that as well. Kentucky Housing Corporation, Federal Home Loan Bank, they may have specific requirements about residency. And so that second mortgage is to protect the equity and increase in value. It goes away as long as you stay for the life of the mortgage and make your payments on time.
Right. And again, if you sell it, and let's get into more detail about that the sale, if it is sold, obviously you pay back our first mortgage, you pay the second mortgage, all right? And any gain, remember, we built this a little less expensively because we had volunteer labor, right? Any equity beyond those 2 mortgages, then we share. That's fair. We can recycle that to build more homes. So it's a great concept. It's a really great concept.
You share with
Thank you, John.
you share with the homeowner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, again, talking about the affordable housing funds, if those ever come into being, those may be a model that could be just a deferred second, in that were it to sell, that would be not forgiven over a number of years. That lump sum would come back, so we could recycle that again for another home. Because sometimes the federal agencies just want a piece of it. They don't want the whole. They gave you $20,000 and it's been 10 years. They may just want, what, 10,000 back, something like that. So we've got some variety there. But we want to keep building these homes. We want to keep building energy efficient, affordable homes, because the price ranges that we're looking at now, it's getting crazy. We just had a home here in Berea that we took back, and we are what's called recycling it, which we've got it fixed up, and we have a new Habitat home going into it, and the appraisal price blew my mind. I was very, very shocked. So this is what we're going to be dealing with in the future. So we've got to be ready and willing to keep building, but be flexible on how we go about all this.
Does Richmond or Winchester have an affordable housing trust fund?
No, they do not. Richmond does not. We're just starting the dialogue. Just started the dialogue. And Winchester was a little different. The project we did with them there, it was an entire street. It was redevelopment of a street, and they redid all the infrastructure. That was kind of their match. But when it came to money to put in toward the house, there wasn't much, just a little bit. I had to beg for that.
So for future planning, when you look at the Hope Village on Scaffold Cane, which is fantastic, where are you looking at next in the city of Berea?
Oh, any place we can find a lot.
Okay,
You know, I've looked everywhere.
okay.
You know, and it's not there yet. So we need help with that. We definitely need some help and direction with that, because we're beating the bushes all over. We don't get too far out into the county. I say Madison County, but I don't want to get too far out in the county. We've been burned there before. Jigwater, anybody know where that is? Not going to build down there again. So no, we're actively keeping an eye out, but we can't find any land.
Along that same theme, how many families in the Berea area have you got on the books that are ready to go?
Oh gosh, ready to go? Oh, we haven't put an application out You know, we want to be specific whenever we do that outreach. We did an outreach for the new homeowner that's going into the recycled home, but that's been several months back.
Yeah.
But whenever we put an invitation out for applications, Berea will get at least 40 to 50 applications, easily. And Richmond, same, you know, more, and Winchester as well.
So just so I understand, you don't advertise, so families can't apply until you actually have secured the land, know
Right.
where the house is gonna be built?
Right.
Okay.
Right,
And then the application process begins?
correct. Yeah, we've got it, yeah, we've got to have that land.
Okay.
We don't select the house plan. We've got a variety of house plans.
Okay.
So we wait till you, the homeowner, new homeowner, select the house plan. So, yeah, but we got to have the land in place, and then we do the invitation. And we got to have the money too, of course, the capital. Yeah.
So I'm assuming Habitat's a 501c3.
Yes.
And if somebody donates land to you, that is tax deductible for that?
That is the way we propose when we approach a landowner. So look, all you need for the IRS is an appraisal. We'll happily provide an appraisal. That is what you need then to make that write-off for the land. But yeah, that's the way we go about that.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. All right. Our next speaker, Sarah Morgan with FAHI, and I think I know what FAHI stands for, but you can tell me.
You can use it if you pop that in. Absolutely. There's a file probably towards the bottom called Berea Planning Commission. Good evening. I am Sarah Morgan. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm a 44-year resident of Berea, having graduated from both the community school and the college, and currently I serve as president of FAHI. And we'll call this little thing up. It's probably at the bottom, very bottom. Keep going. Yeah, at the very bottom of that. No, sorry, go back up. The Berea Planning Commission, that PowerPoint. Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, I'm gonna have to do the glass shuffle. It's all right if it doesn't pop up.
I think I can, I might just take that.
So Greg asked, he says he kind of knows what FAHI is. What is a FAHI? Everyone who asks me what I do, where I work, says, what is a FAHI? FAHI is a purpose-oriented network of community development nonprofits. We've cultivated the deepest reaching platform to connect investments to boots on the ground leadership through and we're working in one of the most difficult parts of our country. We work in Central Appalachia. FAHI's many things, but first and foremost, we're a co-op of community development corporations. Our network spans across 6 states. As a membership organization, thank you. In Central Appalachia, we provide collective voice and access to capital for the creation of housing and the promotion of community development in communities. In our most recent fiscal year, our network deployed $400 million, impacting nearly 38,000 families, households, and about 121,000 people. So I like to start with this quote: "Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts." This was originally attributed to Albert Einstein, but it was later utilized by Cushing Dobert, who was the founder of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, someone who's been a leader in the industry I work in for years. Might go to slide 2, or can I just click?
Yep.
And then you don't have to.
Click here.
Thank you. Oops. There it is. So, Fahi's membership includes, this side says 50 plus, we're nearing 60 organizations across Alabama, Kentucky, Maryland, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia. And these, in serving Madison County, our members include Kentucky River Foothills Development Council, based in Richmond, and Community Ventures in Lexington. We also have about 13 other members in Kentucky. Since about 1980, when we were formed, we've invested over $2 billion and changed the lives of over 1 million people. The reason this matters is because we were formed by a bunch of organizations who were small, who were working in pockets across Appalachia. They came together because they felt like they were stronger together, better together than they were working by themselves. Let's go to the next one. Brian referenced a little bit that the I do think we have a housing crisis in our country. There recently was a study conducted by Freddie Mac, just to give some perspective, that said in 1950, after World War II, our country made a significant investment in the creation of new homes especially for the troops coming back. As of 1970, our country was building half of those new starter homes, and think about 1,200 square foot or less homes, entry-level homes. Since 1970, we had the Great Recession, and nobody cared about housing. It was all jobs, 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 and that number has dropped to 10% today. So today, we're building 10% of the starter homes than we did in 1950. Kentucky Housing Corporation, our HFA, and I think you all heard from Wendy Smith last week. She's a great lady, and they're a great partner of ours. They've identified that we are today 206,000 housing units short, and by 1929, that number is going to go up to just shy of 280,000. That's for our state. Brian referenced Madison County's number. Today, Madison County's number is 2,500 and some change, 2,578 units, according to the study. And I extrapolated, because I am a mathematician and I do like to count things. Brian might have taught me at one point in our career how to do some of this. And I think his number on his sheet was a little higher than mine. Mine was 515 units short today. That'll grow to about 717 in 2029. What this study further reveals is that 78% of the rental units that are needed are for households below $38,200 a year. And another 13% are between that $38,000 and $61,000. The vast majority of the rental units that are needed for people who are lower income. Similarly, the for sale units, about 32% are needed for households below $90,000 a year, but there's a bulk of $50,000 additional that's needed for people earning less than $60,000 a year. So we need entry level homes, and we need homes that are. So I think Brian said we need to create more units. The housing crisis that we have is not a single issue crisis. I had somebody from the Department of Tennessee Economic Development call me up and say, what's the one thing we could invest in to fix workforce housing? And it's not a single variable problem. It's a demand side problem because we don't have enough, it's a supply side problem, because we don't have enough stock. It's a demand side problem because people can't afford it. And the gap is just growing. So, but there are things we can do. That's Berea. And then I broke down Berea's rental and for sale units. So Brian, can you build 261 houses for sale in Berea in this next year? Yeah. So where Fahi adds value is that we're working on both sides of that equation. Our members build homes. They provide the homebuyer education and preparation services needed, and we connect them to the finance, both to develop the units, to build them, and then to permanently finance them, because money's needed on the construction side and then on the purchase side. So I'll give you a couple examples. Did I rush through that? I might have. Yeah. So housing can't wait. I'm gonna have to pop around a bit, sorry. I got a little ahead of myself. Housing can't wait. In July of 2022, devastating flooding occurred across eastern Kentucky. More than 5,000 homes were impacted. The first federal dollar for rebuilding has not been dispersed yet. This is 2024. The day after the flooding, FAHI members like the Housing Development Alliance in Hazard, Homes Incorporated in Whitesburg, Partnership Housing in Owsley County, Frontier Housing out of Moorhead, and the Christian Appalachian Project turned their attention from construction of new homes to meeting people where they were at. They got in with hip boots on and they were mucking houses out. And in order to support them, because their business model is centered around building and selling homes, we turned our attention, FAHI Corporate in Berea, we turned our attention to sending out information to everybody we could to say resources are needed to support this work and not lose this capacity where we're at. This is a way we work together, and I think that's really important. We didn't wait, and since July of 2022, 600 homes have been either mucked out, built new, majorly rehabbed, or are in our pipeline, and we're actively working on a solution for those families. So we raise resources, both philanthropic and private, and in order to get this jump started. I'm gonna go back, sorry for my jumping around. In March of 2023, Secretary Fudge, who's the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Secretary, came to Jackson, Kentucky to announce a commitment of $298 million of community development block grant disaster recovery dollars for Eastern Kentucky. This is a number that is astronomically bigger than what our state has administered in any one year ever. So that put pressure at the state, and it put pressure at the local municipalities, and it put pressure on the development side. Specifically, this lovely mayor is the only paid employee in Jackson, and so when Secretary Fudge said she was coming, she was setting up a place for everybody to meet. She was bringing in the bottled water. She'd made the snacks the night before. Like, she was doing everything. The way CDBG federal money works is you got to make an application and compete as a community to the state. Denise knows this. If you're awarded, then you've got to administer it, and it's got tons of federal strings. And then you got a 5-day rule that when the money comes to you, you got to turn around and cut a check. Well, she's the only person there doing all that and has never administered one. So where we come in is we've provided a bridge between the state and the local community, actually working on behalf of the municipalities and the state to help move these dollars. We're still waiting for one to move, but we're getting closer. We've had awards now. We have a history of doing this kind of work in Madison County. In Richmond, the Linden Street neighborhood, we worked with the city of Richmond to do that in the 1990s, and by we, I mean some folks on my team, and Brian Kirby was with us then. So, like, we got a lot of expertise here in the community that can help move some of this. But we had to help plan, apply for, and then administer those resources. And then we also do a lot of layering. Brian talked about the multiple financing mechanisms to create the affordability. It's a bunch of technical jargon, and I tried to leave a bunch of that out. A couple examples of how our network works. This is Community Ventures in Lexington. They do both homeownership, rental, they provide education. They are financing homes, and they are providing homebuyer education. The homebuyer education is at scale. Anybody can access their homebuyer ed on online platform. Another way is Community Housing Partners is one of our members. They're based in Virginia. They're really thinking about the construction side. I just heard them speak recently. Jake Powell, who's their head of home ownership, he's figured out he's using modular construction, which I've heard of this before, but he's taken another step up. Modular is where the units are manufactured in a warehouse and they're brought on site and connected to a foundation. He's figured out how to make a modular foundation. And so he can get a house 80% done in less than 1 week. It's unheard of. This changes sort of the paradigm of how our financing models work. What Fahi does is, Jake was talking at our meeting we had 2 weeks ago, and the members in Kentucky are learning about these construction techniques. We share expertise because we're not a franchise model. Everybody has different sort of focuses. I said that our housing problem is multifaceted. Fahi's response is not just a single solution, not just on the demand side. Let me talk about us as a financial institution. In the early 1980s, when interest rates were sky high and lumber supply stores went away from 90 days same as cash, our network members needed access to construction loans. So we went out and created a revolving loan fund. And thank you to the Adrian Dominican sisters, who were the first ones to invest. We did pay them back every bit of their retirement savings. 30 years ago today, President Bill Clinton signed into law legislation that created the Community Development Financial Institution Fund at U.S. Treasury. The day the legislation was signed, Fahi's then CEO and President Dave Lawless was there. He represented the only rural CDFI fund, or revolving loan fund. Fahi's been raising money, public, private, and philanthropic, swishing it in a big pool. And then we make two types of loans. We make loans directly to developers, primarily nonprofit and community development focused, via lines of credit, construction loans, bridge loans, permanent loans for community facilities, and rental housing. So we can help the supply side there. And then we have a division called Just Choice Lending, which is our mortgage platform. We built it up in the early days. All of our lending was from these special pools, like Brian was talking about, the Federal Home Loan Bank monies and maybe some home money from KHC and all these federal resources. We were doing about 60 loans a year. Wasn't enough a solution for where we were at, so we built Just Choice. The other reason we did it is because my kids were at the community school at the time, and the only way you could work with Fahi is if you worked through one of our members. We didn't have a solution for the kids in my kids' classroom. If their parents needed a mortgage solution, we couldn't help them out. So Just Choice is, we work in and outside of members. We are Fannie Freddie certified, which means we are doing what the traditional lending institutions do. We can provide conventional loans, FHA, USDA guaranteed. But we also have the ability to do specialized mortgage products, which which reach deeper into the market. And so we have an 80-20. So if you're gonna buy a house, it costs $100,000. We can make an $80,000 loan. We sell to Fannie Mae, and we can put a $20,000 second mortgage, which also has a repayment stream, so that home buyer doesn't have to buy mortgage insurance, because that's expensive. And if we've counseled them, then they should be our history is that they're successful. Because we're Fannie Freddie, we've also worked with our industry, our CDFI industry. We've created a new product called Inspire 100 that goes a little even deeper than that 80-20 product. I mean, its credit flexibility is a little more there. And then we also have the ability to raise special pots of money for down payment assistance, and those are available when they're available. And then the last thing is, we're a USDA 502 direct intermediary packager. USDA is the largest financier, and this is the Department of Agriculture. They're the largest public bank financing homes in rural America, and they offer a mortgage that will go 1%, 38 years if you're low income. So if you're in that bucket I said at the initial part that is needed, they can actually finance those. Today, we're doing about 46% of the volume nationally of their packagers, of the packaging program, and it's running us about $105 million last year. See if there's anything else here. Computer doesn't like me. There we go. So this is just from our Just Choice page. No, this is where we work. So while we're focused on Appalachia, we're delivering mortgages from Hawaii to Washington State, to Texas, to Maine, and to Florida. And the reason is that the platform that we've developed has to have enough scale. So, what are the things that you guys can do? What are the things you guys can think about? There is HUD and USDA used to be the largest federal entities that provide subsidy for housing. Just recently, the federal government, through the Department of Energy, has released billions of dollars of awards for greenhouse gas reduction fund, meaning anything that can help create reduction in greenhouse gas emissions are eligible to be financed. Homes, single-family residents, or residential properties consume 46 or produce 46% of greenhouse gas emissions. My network knows how to build houses with HERS rating of like 50, which means it uses 50% of the energy of an Energy Star home. That's reducing greenhouse gas. We're looking for those resources. Treasury is creating a new pool of money for affordable housing. They haven't submitted the regs on what's going to be available there, but that's going to be new. We'll figure out how to get in and use some of this, but the city has the opportunity, I think, especially as the industrial park grows, and I'm not an industrial park expert, so as we are attracting new businesses in, we need to create more housing for the people that are going to work there. We can negotiate with the industries. It's possible that they create their own small pool of money that they would then make the city of Bloomington, Indiana. We were talking to them a program for firefighters, educators, and and folks in the medical industry, where the city would provide a loan, one of those deferred mortgages, like $20,000, if somebody buys a house in the city limits, and then it's forgiven a portion every 5 years. We have the opportunity to create those kinds of programs. Any lots, as Brian was saying, that you guys take back via eminent domain because of failure to pay property taxes, those can be repurposed. And there are avenues to do that as well. So I've yacked for a really long time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Okay, questions, comments, thoughts from the commission?
You know, I always got something.
Absolutely, I would be surprised if you didn't.
Thank you, Sarah. As you know, I know a little bit about Fahi, but the biggest thing is, like, I think Berea is really fortunate to have Fahi right here, right? And I don't even know, and again, this is very helpful because it was like, oh, we've got a great resource right here in Berea that I think we can tap, right? But I think for all of us on this end is like, I'm not sure exactly how to tap it, but I think together we can figure that out, right? Yeah.
I think so. You know, one of the other things I didn't mention is in our membership network, we have habitats, we have housing authorities, we have mom and pop nonprofits that were set up, and the city of Beattyville set up a nonprofit 100 moons ago, 1992, and that worked and they have created 50 housing units and plus more. They've done rehab and other stuff, but that nonprofit that was first funded to start from the city got support from FAHI and that network, and so there's an opportunity there to like create an investment in a nonprofit that's here, that's serving the city.
Yep, and we don't, outside of Habitat, which isn't exclusive to Berea, we don't have that kind of organization here in Berea.
We have a housing authority,
I mean, yes, we do have the housing.
and we have a housing authority in West Virginia where the resources don't flow quite the same way, who's a really innovative. They've created their own CDFI, they've created their own business development fund, and are doing some really innovative things. So there's some other models out there. It requires a different investment though.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else? Sarah, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, so continuing on in our work session, thirdly, we've got, and this is Cameron Franklin, Eagle Point Property Management, consultation for parking on adjacent lot for new commercial development. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. My name's Cameron Franklin. I own Eagle Point Property Management. We have residential and commercial real estate here in Berea, Richmond, and Danville. We also own the Great Spirits liquor store here in Berea at 608 Richmond Road. We bought that property several years ago to develop, and it turned out once the area was voted wet, we elected to go ahead and invest and try to put something in the community that was reputable, well-maintained, and provided something other than just a retail package store. What our intent is to develop that property that we have right there. Amanda has it on the map. The building is a small blue barn there on 608. I'm sure everybody's kind of seen it as they pass by. That building was built on fill land. That entire area right there was packed and filled in sometime, I don't even know what year that was. Me too. And so the building that's on there is about 1,000 square feet on the first floor, and there's about another 700 square feet on the upper floor. It was built as a barn. It's a pole barn. It was a car lot at one time. It was a lot of different things. We've renovated it and turned it into a retail space. What we've run into is, in an attempt to develop this property, we're running up against multiple different things that we've talked with Amanda about several times. The biggest issue we're running into is parking. Okay, so that property, when that entire development was made, the 3 residential lots that are behind the building, we own those as part of the 2 tracts that were purchased, are zoned residential. With part of that, there are covenants in the original deed in the development that those parcels will never be able to be used for anything other than residential. There are some extremely expensive legal actions that we could try to partake to get that changed. But it doesn't seem like that's going to work. So what we're looking at potentially doing is going ahead and turning those into 3 residential houses, some small shotgun style houses. But we have access restrictions that are preventing us from doing that right now, and we're trying to figure that out. So that's some of what we wanted to talk about tonight, is kind of that property specifically, and then 2 properties adjacent to it. There is a vacant lot that's currently owned by the Don Combs estate. Where the outside structure storage unit buildings are shown right there in the map. That right now it's a current vacant lot. The idea that we want to do long term is to develop that property would be to tear that barn structure down, and actually on the lot that's vacant to the south side of it, right there, and build a new structure. The idea for that would be it would be a 3-story structure or 2-story structure with a basement. Because it's fill ground, we're expecting that we would have to excavate it significantly to get back down to something that's solid to build on, that would meet code and meet the GIS restrictions. What we're concerned about is even when we do that, we still don't have enough parking. If we were to put up a 5,000 square foot building there with a basement, with a primary retail outlet on this first floor, and potentially a restaurant style gastro pub on the second floor, we don't have enough parking, nowhere near. So one of the things that we've talked about with Amanda is the lot that Don Combs Estate owns would be to either purchase that or long-term lease it and use that as extended parking to meet the building code. So why I'm here tonight is to kind of introduce these ideas to everybody, because we would have to come before council to figure out what we can and can't do, what you guys would approve through variances and some other things. We're trying to put this in a planning for 2025 potentially to start 3 residential buildings and potentially start a new commercial structure. What that's going to take from our side is a huge investment in GIS study, in development plan, in a bunch of other aspects. I don't know if y'all know or not, but liquor stores don't make a lot of money. Profit margins aren't great in them, but we want to continue to invest in the community and provide an example of what a business like that can be. Okay, we're very proud of our establishment. We have a great customer base, and we want to continue to invest and grow in Berea. So we're trying to figure out how to do this economically and what works and makes sense. So one of the headaches that we're running up against is, what's the street on the backside there, Amanda, that dead ends? Cumberland Street. So Cumberland Street was originally zoned for a right-of-way, and you can kind of see it going down there through the woods. It was never developed, it was abandoned. The first problem we've got, if we want to develop those 3 residential lots, you know, everybody's talking about housing shortages and everything else. We're interested in trying to build there, but I'm running up against an issue of expense to do that and try to keep something affordable there for housing with developing that street. If we want to develop that street, it looks like we're not going to be able to do that as just a private driveway, self-maintained. So we would have to go in and develop that as a city street that was never developed by the original developer. That's considerable cost when you're trying to put a small affordable house, 3 units in an area. So we're asking council to kind of look at this and think about what could be done here. How could we work together to kind of develop that? Again, we're looking at making a significant investment in that area and try to partner with the city and with everybody on doing some affordable housing right there in the end of Cumberland Street. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. We have reached out to a few architectural firms that will work with us to develop the architectural plans on the housing and the building. We have some survey stuff ready to go to do some GIS studies, but right now I'm kind of at a pause point where I'm not wanting to put that money in until I know that we could actually get something approved.
So just to clarify, what we're actually talking about this evening is in terms of the city's regulations. So one of the things that Cameron has proposed is if this tract, so this, it looks like 2 tracks, I believe it is 2 tracks. So what would happen is this would be consolidated into 1 tract, this existing building demolished, and a new commercial building with a development plan proposed for these 2 tracks. What our regulations say is that parking must be provided on that tract or on an adjacent tract. And again, as he said, there's some complications with deed restrictions as to why he couldn't just use this land he already owns back here, okay? So the question then becomes, again, when we look at adjacent lot, that is right next to. So I think in terms of using this lot, this owned by Donald Combs Estate at, what's that address? 518 Richmond Road. Really the question, and again, we're not looking for certainly not a vote, just a discussion. You know, with working with his engineering firm to develop their plans for this development, I wanted to have the conversation more or less to say, what are the concerns about providing parking that is essentially 2 doors down? It's not adjacent. I will say that there is a brand-new shared use path and a very nice, it's very well lit. And so, I think just again, more just a conversation of how does the commission feel about parking down here to serve a use 2 lots up? Because again, very plainly spelled out in our regulations that just says it must be on your lot or it must be adjacent. I think we've also talked about a variance for the required number of parking spaces, but obviously the intention is that they have enough patrons
parking.
to,
Right.
to warrant the required parking spaces. So I don't think he's looking at, we want to cut our parking spaces, required parking spaces. It's more just how can we provide for the requirement? And again, just more a conversation to just say, does anyone have a compelling reason that it shouldn't be allowed on a somewhat adjacent lot instead of a directly adjacent lot?
Thoughts?
So there's 2 issues, right? I mean, there's the commercial and then the residential and back there, right?
We are not discussing, in terms of this commission, that would be
Right.
a city council decision
Right.
for how to improve that right of way. I think that just leads to the complications.
Right.
And
That's
it's all part of the story.
Yes.
when we originally went down the path to develop that property and plan, what the original intent was to start the business in the end of 2023, get the business up and running, build out the other building, knock it down, and pave that entire lot. As we started digging into it with Amanda to get building plans and get a development plan put together, we uncovered a whole lot of unknowns. And so the issue became, now I own, almost an acre of land there in 3 different tracts that's unproducible for anything right now, realistically. There's a path there, but it's an expensive path to get it. So that then led to, well, how can I get more parking? And so that's what drove us to the idea for the Don Combs Estate property as a potential alleviation for that. But then the next roadblock was, it's not adjacent.
My question would be, how do you handle the logistics of people if that is gonna be parking? Are you just gonna say, hey, you can just walk on the sidewalk, or?
It would have to be sidewalk. We've approached Combs about potentially buying the house that's there between the 2 properties. They're not interested in selling because it's a good income producing property for them. So the idea would be that you would have, it's no different than parking in Old Town and walking to Burt Speakeasy, right? It's a developed street with a sidewalk with lighting. If I park in Old Town down at the Poke Boat Building and I have to walk up the street to go to Burt Speakeasy or Apollo's Pizza, I'm walking on the sidewalk.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Right.
In any Lexington, Louisville, or anything, right? None of those businesses are required to have parking, but it's available, right?
Right.
So personally, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm curious, so when you look at where you currently are and the adjacent that you have beside it,
Yep.
what is the footprint of the Donald Combs estate that has all the outbuildings or whatever you want to call them?
So
Could you not do the same thing there, keep the other business open while you're doing that?
So the idea would be that we would keep the store open as we're building the construction. So we don't have any parking right now on that lot to the side of our building, to the south side. It's basically just a drive-through.
Right.
So we're looking at taking what's currently 1,100 square foot building for space for retail, and we're looking at moving that up to 4,000 to 5,000 square feet in that other lot. The problem is when we do that, the size of the building and the retail space warrants a certain number of parking spaces. Couple on top of that with our business plan of what we would like to do with it, of having a restaurant above the retail space. Now I have a retail space and I have a restaurant that I have seating for and I need parking for. So regardless of what I do on that lot, because I can't use the real estate behind it for parking, I'm undersized.
I think it's very reasonable, and I think that there's a lot of traffic lights and there's a great bike path. So I don't see how it couldn't be safe to walk from that parking lot to the new store.
You're talking about a 35-foot lot distance between the two lots. That's really the span that you're looking at.
Zoning on everything's appropriate, correct?
It is. Mhm.
Yeah, it looks like roughly you're gonna need about 100 parking spots.
And even at that, even with utilizing the Combs property and our property, because we can't use those 3 residential lots, we're still gonna have to apply for a variance because there's not gonna be enough. Right now, on the front of the store that we have 1 handicap space, we have about 15 spaces total right there right now. When that building is gone and you can redo it, we're guesstimating, we haven't gotten all the drawings done yet. Again, we haven't spent the money with the firms yet till we know we have a path that's attainable. We suspect that we might be able to get 30 spaces in there with a drive-through. And so on the Combs lot, we would hope that we could get maybe 50 spaces. And even at that, we're at maybe 80. So we'd still have to apply for a variance based on the occupancy look.
Okay.
So this was just something that Amanda and I have been months back and forth on. This has been since probably March, when I started coming to her office with different sketches and drawings and ideas, and okay, here's the next hurdle we hit. What do we do about this? So we wanted to come before the commission tonight and kind of talk about where we think we can go with it, to just see, is there resounding no, we don't think this is feasible, before we go and spend real money on development plans.
Right, right.
Just a quick question. Would you go back to where the 3 residential, where you're gonna put the 3 houses?
Yeah, so this is shown just as one, but,
Oh.
these are assumed property lines, and the actual deed of this, does show, this is 3 tracks legally, just
Okay.
not represented that way on the map.
From the original development plan.
Okay.
And again, we are working, I've worked with Cameron on, access and how we can, because again, we know there's land that can be developed for housing, and we're having the housing conversation. So it's just trying to work out all the hurdles and the kinks of how do you, how do you provide access to those.
I don't have a problem with the parking. I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you all for your input. Again, just, it's a big challenge when right off the bat, you just see you can't meet the regulations, right? And so just having, I think, a little bit of confirmation is what we needed to kind of move forward with this.
Absolutely. I appreciate everybody's time and willingness to kind of hear out what we're trying to do with the property. Our goal is to develop and continue to make 25 a more appealing road frontage. Right now there's some great properties and there's some ungreat properties. Ours was a little ungreat for a while, just because we didn't know what we were going to do with it. So until you really have a plan forward, it's kind of hard to spend money to develop on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Moving right along, business session, call the business session meeting to order. Recognize, any visitors that, may have anything that's not on the agenda to discuss or have questions about. Seeing or hearing anything, so let's talk about our minutes for September 10th, 2024. They're in front of you. Entertain a motion for accepting the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Berea Planning Commission Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 minutes as presented.
I'll
motion?
second that.
So, second by Ms. Denise. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. We don't have any old business, so we'll go past that. New business, we have a public hearing, concerning lots 50, 70, 90, 110, and 130 Cope Lane, Houghton Homes LLC. This is a zone change request from R1, single-family residential, to R2, two-family residential. And this is a public hearing, and like anyone that speaks or makes comments or anything, please come to one of the podiums and state your name for the record and everything, so. And, oh, we need to be sworn in, is that what we need to do? Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Gilbert, don't swear me in.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth,
Maybe.
nothing but the truth.
Absolutely, I do. Thank you all for your time, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair Peoples. My name's Corey Isaacs. Isaacs Law Office, 306 West Main Street, Richmond, Kentucky. And before I jump into the matter before you, the presentation that I walked in on with Fahi and the Habitat, they're amazing. I'm a beneficiary of that myself. My family has been a direct beneficiary of that, and I have the opportunity to stand before you all today, and for that I am eternally grateful. So everything that they said, please take it to heart. However, to the matter before you all, as you see it there are 5 different tracks along Cope Lane. Cope Lane comprises from the intersection there on Bratcher all the way down the end. It's about 0.16 of a mile, so it's relatively short. Across the street from those vacant lots, I believe there to be 2 residential properties, 2 other properties that are probably connected, all a part of their own, but the structures themselves are not residential. I think they're garages. What we have proposed is that you give us the opportunity to build duplexes. As you all have been baptized in now at this point, is there's an absolute need for housing. Duplexes provide that housing. It provides that step between your final home and a mortgage that'll follow you to the end, and your opportunity for housing now to provide for your family. If Ms. Haney, do you have the opportunity to select the zoning images? Everything, so this is a very unique area. So as you see what is in yellow, there's a large parcel behind my client's property, and I am remiss, Kyle is here with me today, and he's gonna come up here in a moment, but everything behind that's the single family. However, if you look into the green, that's R2. We're asking to be zoned R2. I believe that it's certainly capable of being described as, there's been a change, and the change is not only on Cope Lane, the change is regional, the change is statewide. We need housing. This area also includes a portion of the county, and Ms. Haney, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but those areas that are not highlighted with any green or yellow, that's Madison County, correct? So those are county properties, which don't provide the zoning that you would see on this current map. However, pursuant to comprehensive plan, it says R1 should be buffered by R2, and it should be predominant as a buffer between commercial and all those things. This area is not appropriate for commercial. I think it's a short road. These areas have not been developed. However, what we propose, and I think what your comprehensive plan will allow us to do, if you're kind enough to allow us, is that we propose a individual duplex on each one of the lots. Ms. Haney was kind enough and worked with 911. These areas didn't have addresses before we came to you. They were vacant. The road there ends, I would say it's a cul-de-sac, but kinda, fair enough. It ends and then comes back around. If we look at traffic concerns, you have a duplex. There's 2 family homes. You can do the math. Traffic will not be anything that would cause an issue for safety, would not be an issue for trouble for the neighbors. And directly across the street, one of the lots actually touches across the street of the R2. We simply ask for the ability to build duplexes on each one of the lots and develop it with accordance to the comprehensive plan and all other city regulations. I do wish to have the opportunity to call my client up, have him sworn in and provide testimony. Kyle, do you mind to come up, and that way they can, and before I do, anybody have questions for me on that instance?
I don't necessarily have a question for you, Amanda. What can you overlay the comprehensive plan on that particular section that we're looking at, please?
So there actually are not any changes. So comprehensive plan, this is the future land use map, shows it exactly like the zoning is now. So medium density residential in the southern portion and low density residential for these lots.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, Chairman, I should say, Chairperson, here, when I mentioned the comprehensive plan, it's to the point that those two shall abrupt, right? They should come together. It should not jump from commercial to R1. They want that buffer, and the buffer being appropriate of R1 and R2. That way there's not a offensive use that abrupts those R1 houses. But at this point in time, if you, Mr. Gilbert, if you want to swear him in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Kyle, go ahead and introduce yourself to these folks, tell them what you do for a living and what your plans are for those lots.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kyle Houghton with Houghton Homes. I'm a home builder here in Madison County. We're looking to build some rentals there that do bridge, as Corey said, bridge the gap for people that are close to buying but aren't quite there yet. These are going to be 3-bedroom, 2-bath per side. Very attractive looking duplexes.
And as do you plan to build all at once, or are they going to be staged?
We're planning to do 3 to start out with, and as those get occupied, we'll do the other 2.
And as you build, of course, you pull permits, everything gets approved.
Yes,
Correct, all
you
plans.
have to do that.
We won't let them go any further without that.
Amanda's not gonna let us get by with that pulling permits.
However, the use will be only for that. There's no commercial aspect, correct?
That's correct.
There's no industrial aspect.
Correct.
And the folks that, I know you've met with at least one of the neighbors.
I haven't met with him personally. The gentleman that owns the land behind me asked me if he could cut the hay off the vacant lots, and I had no objection to that.
Actually, yes, they're cutting some hay right now.
Yep, exactly.
Other than that, those haven't been used for any other purpose, correct?
No, they have not.
And Ms. Haney, you may help me. We had to do some digging. We went back to some very old flats. It's been unoccupied since far before.
Back in the,
before I were around.
I think it was the 50s that it was actually subdivided into these tracts.
So I mean, it's been there for a decent period of time. However, nothing has occurred. We believe that given, especially, I live in a cul-de-sac. I've got twins that are 3 and a 7-year-old. Cul-de-sac's the only reason that I'm not in jail because they haven't got run over yet. It's attractive for families. It's a good place to raise families, and the duplex opportunity is what you have to offer, giving multiple persons and multiple families the opportunity to live and to have safe housing. I believe that everything you've heard today would indicate that that's very important.
Okay, let's go to our commission members. Any questions, concerns, comments? Martin?
Yeah. So your intention is to retain ownership?
It is.
And rent these out?
Yes, it is.
And you said you're imagining that each duplex would be 2-bedroom, 1-bath?
No, sir. 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Oh, okay.
With a 1-car garage per side.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, but most people have 2 cars, so I guess they're just gonna just park the other one in the driveway?
Yeah, there will be plenty of parking. We normally put enough parking so you can fit 4 cars in the driveway.
Okay.
And on that, there are certainly city regulations that require us to have ample parking. With the garage being a part of the structure, we reduce the opportunity to justify on-street, right? You've got a car in the garage and you've got 4 spaces up front. Unless you're having a birthday party, it's not reasonable, right? With the garage aspect, it reduces that even being a likelihood or an opportunity.
What's the square footage?
They are roughly 1,300 square foot per side, plus the garage. So the garage is about 250 square foot. So you're talking 1,550 square foot per side for a total of 3,100.
Okay.
So for zone changes, there has to be per KRS, economic, physical, social. Are you saying all of those have occurred? And if you could, explain to me how
Yeah,
all 3 of those are applicable.
Yeah, I believe they absolutely have. I think everybody that came before me to give a presentation and what you've heard in the weeks past justify everything. I wrote down, I cheated, I wrote down some of the numbers. Madison County, 2,570 units short. I don't know if there's much more argument that I can give. I didn't do the math, I didn't do the homework. I get to cheat off somebody that's what they do for a living, they want to provide. If you tell me that there's 2,500 families that don't have a house, even if they're working, even if they're trying, we can do that. And we can do that in a manner in which is attractive on a street that's 0.16 of a mile with a cul-de-sac at the end.
And-
That sounds desirable.
And I don't disagree. I'm just, as a commission member, I look at myself as an umpire and I'm calling balls and strikes.
Give
Right.
me the outside corner here.
I get that. I get that. So explain to me why you would not want to put a modest R1 house in those 5 slots.
Very fair. $350,000. It's about what a modest house is going for these days. I do closings left and right. The price of a single-family house eliminates my parents. They could have never done that. My mom's worked at Walmart. My dad worked at High Street. We couldn't. To come up with a down payment, impossible. However, I was lucky. My folks worked hard. They gave me an opportunity. They went through different entities that helped. I needed a place where I could grow up safe and stay out of trouble. I had that. I can't imagine. I mean, outside of, they may get in the farmer's field, the kiddos, and they may run around and cause a little trouble, but, it's kind of cute and healthy, to be honest with you. This area is unique, especially because of the street, right? To have an opportunity of this type of housing in this limited scope, it's hard for me to stomach a bad reason, right? It works, and it's one of the areas within the county that needs it. Absolutely, Berea's growing at immense paces. How can we keep up? I don't know if there is a way. I don't care how much we do. It's going to be really hard, right? Just to keep up. I've given you 5 lots. I don't know if it's a foothold, but it's a start.
If there were only 5 homes though, that would decrease the density compared to having duplexes on each one of those lots. It would also reduce the traffic.
And that's absolutely correct. I don't disagree with you. That's a fact. That's a realization. I agree. However, when you're talking about density and on this street, I beg of you, what density do we start to put up the fence on? How much density does it need before we start say it's bad? The street's not long. There's not a lot of traffic, and there's no through traffic. If if you turn on that street, I'd imagine you know whose house you're going to, or you ought to. You better know. If not, you just turn around and going because you got lost. It's a dead-end street that can provide housing. That's very simply what we've asked for.
Okay, other comments, questions, commissioners? We'll turn it over for, some public comment or, any other, so, yeah, let's do some of that. Let's, we may call you back up, gentlemen, but we will hear from the neighbors and things. Come on up here if you want to, and, like I said, just state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Harry Isaacs.
Swear.
I affirm.
Affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir. My name is Harry Isaacs. I moved on Arrowhead Drive in 1972. Dewey Thomas owned all that farm. I bought 35 acres in the back of it. He sold it to Raymond Baker and Mr. Moppin, and Raymond Baker sold it to my father-in-law. I lotted them lots off, built some houses on Bratcher Lane, built some on Arrowhead Drive. After that, Mr. Carpenter bought it, and he passed away, and Pete sold some of it to my neighbor. Those 5 lots, there's acre behind it, and if you want to go out there today, when you get to that second lot, it runs downhill. When you get up there in the middle of that field, it runs downhill. And every bit of that water runs into my back lot. I own that barn and 35 acres, and that lot that comes out on Bratcher Lane, I go from Arrowhead Drive to Copes Lane. And that Copes Lane ain't wide enough to pass 2 cars on it. And when you're gonna get that storm water, it floods Ernie Davis's house. He's got 3 or 4 inches of water in it now. And when you put that in a curb and gutter and a blacktop road, what are you gonna do with it? And how can you put a cul-de-sac on a 30-foot driveway? I just don't understand that. And if you could put 5 houses, you might make it. But I realize that you need to put 10 houses there so you can make money off of it. But it ain't room for it, and it's got a dead end, and somebody's got to turn around. I live on a dead-end street on Arrowhead Drive, and every garbage truck, and every truck that gets lost, and every city truck tears my blacktop. I ain't got no blacktop now. And every time a gravel washes down on Arrowhead Drive, I get a ticket from the city to clean up the gravel. But it's a dead end, and the approach is broke, and the blacktop's broke because the garbage trucks turn around in it. That's the same way it is on Copes Lane. You can't turn a truck around down there. You got to back up into Copes' garage to get turned around. I just don't see how that you can't go in there without building a street and putting curbs and gutter in it and blacktop it and getting a right of way from somebody to get that water to the creek. Now, if you complain how you just gonna pick it up and move it, keep it from running in them, selling Copes on them 2 houses up below my barn, that's just a lot there, and then my 35 acres go back to Gavertown. But them houses down there in the bottom, every one of them's flooded. It's flooded today. You can go down there today, and there's a 6-inch cover across that last house on the left, and it's filled up because everything washed down because they put a new gas line down through there, and the gas line ditch washed down to Seldon's yard and over to Ernie's house. Now, I've been a builder all my life. I've been living in Berea 79 years, and I know about everybody around, and I've been there and when there's a cornfield, and so I know what happens. That ain't a flat piece of land. That's a rolling hill from the front of that arena down to Copes Lane, runs to Copes Lane on the 2nd lot. And then from the 2nd lot to the 5th lot, it runs down to Ernie Davis's driveway and under his house. Now, he can tell you all about it, but I just don't see how that can happen. You put 10 families in there instead of 5. But everybody wants a concrete yard. They don't want no garden. They don't want no yard. They don't want no trees. And then they wonder why the kids are running out, getting in somebody else's property. If you give them a yard to mow and a tree to climb and a garden to put out, that's the reason they had them size lots. So you could have a little house with 12 or 1,500 square feet and put a garden behind it. Now they got to put them houses up on the fence so they can get the sewer line to run down to Bratcher Lane. So there's a lot of things to think about, and I don't really see how it can make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Anyone else?
All these guys have got something to say, but I live there, and I intend them to stay, and I just don't want to be flooded out. And you have to put a road and a county stop or something, where you gonna get the land to put the county stop?
Yeah.
I'll say if it's a water back there.
Okay. All right, all right. All right.
I'm available if you wish to entertain any questions. However, I thank you all for your time and your consideration.
Okay. We'll just give it one last shot. Anybody else wanna make any comments, or make any addresses or anything? All right. Be sure and state your name, sir.
My name's Bill Johnson.
You swear
I
to
live-
affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir. My mother married Ernie Davis, and they do live at the end of that lane. I don't know where the guy got the cul-de-sac from. There's no cul-de-sac down there at the end of that lane. She don't have many years left. And there is a water problem. If you build 5 duplexes, you park 2 cars, plus 2 cars, that's roughly 40 foot wide, and ever what the distance is back to that little road edge. And then you get all that roofs plus that on the houses, and plus the extra roof on the garage, 200 some square foot there. You've got a lot of water that's going to come down all at once, where it was hitting the grass and staying kind of busy and slowed down. Well, there's no place for it to go. That's absolutely, I was born, well, I wasn't born, I was about 12 years old when we moved in that house. And it's deteriorating right now. Ever since the city put the new blacktop down, they didn't bring it out to the edges. They bowed it. We literally got up there and put a string across it to show ourselves. It's not tilted to the outside where it could even go into the little ditches. It's valid from the center of the top of the hill down to where it all runs down. Ernie bought a load of gravel himself, has it piled up there for the last 2 years since it's been blacktop. And when the water comes over down the drive, that little new road, it's 5-6 inches deep. He's 80 some years old, and he goes up there with a shovel. So I don't see how they can do it. With a normal house, 1,500 square foot house, you've got an extra space between each house, you know, for that water to help do something. But if they just run it down that street and they don't do anything with that street, you know, I don't know how they're gonna do it. I just hope for the best. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. So, not being out there myself, Amanda, can we,
Here's what I, can offer.
we'll get our comments here.
Okay.
Sir, whenever you're ready, just tell us your name, sir,
My
please.
name's Ernie Davis. I live at the bottom of the hill there. We have absolutely got.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth?
Yes, sir. We've got a tremendous water problem. We had the road crowned. Well, when they built Bratcher Lane, I think Allen Company wanted to do a favor for the city. So they came in and cut all that out, made it a valley, and all the water drains off of these lots they're talking about. And they put a hits that, comes down there. And I had a ditch that carried the water, but when they put all that extra, it's washed it out plumb over to the ditch. There ain't no ditch. And I'd say it's down to bedrock, really. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir. So just from my understanding of what we're talking about here, what we're calling kind of at the bottom of the hill or down the hill, is this the 175, 198?
So what I noticed is these first two it is very much a rolling hill. So these first two lots, as you're driving down Cope Lane, these increase in, these kind of go uphill, and then starting at 90, 110, 130, those fall back toward this area. I noticed a ditch. Now, I didn't go on anybody's private property, but I did notice a ditch along Cope Lane on this side of the road. And you can actually see a lot of drainage ditches. Let me turn this zoning off and turn some of this other stuff off so we can.
You can see that drainage ditch in the back of that arena there, just cutting that water from going down that hill back to
Yep.
the farm.
Yep, you can see a drainage ditch here. You see all kinds of drainage ditches through here. It looks like all this water tends to funnel along this, and I'm going to assume it goes right into this pond and keep this pond full. Okay? So, I think what would be important, two comments I would have from a city perspective would be if the city paved the road and created problems, then I am happy to set up a meeting with you folks to go to the appropriate agency, which is the Public Works Committee of the City Council, would be my opinion. Anyway, certainly can get you a meeting with the right folks who can at least get it on the radar if we have created a swale in that road, because certainly that road needs crown. I understand that, sir. But again, to try to get it fixed, we got to get you in front of the right people. The other problem it goes from city to county right there. That's exactly true. So, so that may be one of the challenges with that. Again, I don't know how the drainage works where this house is, but I assume that there is a ditch just to the left side of that house that water would carry along this fence line. What I would offer, I'm not sure if again, in terms of
We've not got that far yet.
is there something that the developer can do? So these are legal buildable lots in terms of, they can build a house on them today. Is there something that can be done to try to prevent, at least get it ditched and going to the right direction? I think it's what it sounds like the problem might be, is that it's, something's happened and diverted that water.
Then when they had all those changes.
It is a city maintained street. I did just check that. Mm-hmm. is on Bratcher Lane. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we've got some more comments here. Sir, go ahead.
My name's Jim Beaver. I live at, I own the property at 610 Bratcher Lane.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. The reason I just wanted to make a comment, I own 610 Bratcher Lane, and I recently purchased the 3 acres that are right behind the property that he is talking about. I've owned that property now for, I guess, about 3 or 4 years. And the city came through and put sewers through well before I bought it. When I bought it, that 610 Bratcher Lane stays wet all the time. Even though the city sewers are there, it's like the property is lower than the road. So I put French drains in at the house, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. We hit number 2 gravel all through the front yard from where they put the sewer system in, and it still stays wet all the time. The property that I bought peaks about halfway through, right in the middle of those 5 that he's talking about, and you can go out there and literally there is ruts everywhere going down in every direction from the water runoff. So my concern is that I've probably put $4,000 into my yard trying to keep that water from building up and ruining the foundation of my house, but it's still wet. So, and there's a sewer there. The city has done everything they said they could do to get the water moving, and it's still accumulating. You can go there right now, and in front of my curbing in my house, you'll step into it and you'll sink 6 inches into it because of the water. So my concern is obviously that it doesn't seem like there's a plan to route that water away. I don't oppose duplexes, I don't oppose building houses, but I feel like there's got to be some sort of plan to route that water somewhere before any of this is approved. So just wanted to let you know that there is a big water problem there. We've been experiencing it the whole time I've been there, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that's a good point, I think, too, that as the commission, however you want to approach it or look at it, we are here to consider a zone change. There's not a plan in place. There's a plan being talked about, but there's nothing that's been approved, anything like that. This is just a zone change that gives them the opportunity to present a plan that, you know, may or may not, I assume, we hope that it would address that situation. So it's good information to know. It's good information to bring forward so that it's on record and everybody knows about it. But it is a couple of different things that it's a different body or a different time that can address that. But I'm hopeful that our city representative tonight will be able to get some sort of idea or thought about what can be done or what can happen there. But we are here to address the possibility, and we're having the hearing for the zone change. So that being said, any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Amanda, there isn't a development plan required for this.
There's not.
I mean-
Again, they are legal buildable lots as R1 right now. The request is for the land use to be changed to R2 duplex.
I mean, that doesn't preclude us from, because we have in the past asked for development plans.
Not typical for R2 developments. It would be unprecedented, I would say, because those really only come into play when we, look at, multifamily units, 3 or more, or commercial developments. But, you know, certainly the commission has that right to ask for a development plan. In terms of what I will do is definitely take the stormwater concerns to the appropriate people, whether it's approved or not.
I would hope so, yes. We definitely want the folks out there to feel like their voice is being heard. That needs
Absolutely.
to be checked out and looked into.
Absolutely.
And if there was a situation that was working a few years ago before some work was done, then let's figure out if that can be attained again as well. So.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sir.
these folks are getting a neighbor. My client's already testified. He's gonna continue to own these. If there's an issue, that would have a negative impact on him as well. It's not a logical sequence of events. He's more than capable right now of putting a 5,000 square foot single family home on each one of those lots without asking please.
Right.
But we're doing smaller than that, significantly smaller. And we're asking permission to do so, and I think the comprehensive plan and the current statutory scheme allows for that. Otherwise, I'll excuse myself and ask for a motion at your all's convenience.
Well, that's my concern, you know, from what I've heard everybody, is the drainage is not good out there. And anything that's get built is just going to make things worse, right? Whether it's single-family homes or duplexes. And, you know, well, as he just said, they could stay single-family homes and you could actually get even bigger houses out there than the, you know, the 2,600 combined units, right, on each lot. You could get 4,000. And it's not the driveway, it's the roof that's contributing to the water. So, you know, I feel for everybody out there because you've got a bad situation, and regardless whether we approve a zone change or not, anything that gets built is gonna make it worse. I also feel for you as you're stuck in the middle between Berea City and the county, right?
Can you put and develop that with that little in the street, curb, gut, sidewalk,
You can, because those are legal lots as they exist. And so someone, I thought you said it was you, subdivided those in the past. Yeah, that's just the change. So because those are legal lots as they exist, they can be built on right now.
Yeah, if you still owned it and wanted to do that, you couldn't do it now.
Yeah, you couldn't do it now, but but because they existed.
I've got several little 1,200, 1,500 foot houses around, you know, 2 bedroom houses, and that's what it's locked off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's changed in 50 years.
Yeah. Well, I was young, then.
Okay, commission, the chair would entertain a motion.
I just would like to say that there's no person more appropriate to hear your concerns than Amanda, and she will relay them to the appropriate party. I wish we could do something to fix the water, but the water is going to move downhill whether we have a house on the lot or a duplex on the lot. I fear that the housing type is not going to affect the water situation we have going on down there. Like he was saying, right now we could put a 5,000 square foot house and then put basketball courts in the back if we wanted to and fill it full of concrete. So the concern isn't the housing type, I believe it's a water issue, and Amanda can help find the appropriate place for that to be expressed.
They can split it and run it down the 5 Smith, or you can turn it the other way and run it on me. Both of them goes down into Goodrich Lake, and it comes over, the dam's filled up, and back up to my field, about 30 foot. She's had the county back there on me with that. They can't do it with me because their water back up on me, so I don't care if it's up there. But, you know, they just stop me from spraying the urine for it.
Yeah, and you know, what's unfortunate is we have to worry about it getting into people's houses. You know, it can back up on land. We don't like it, but it can.
Be out there, you go out there in the morning and see it.
Oh, yeah, you can tell. They're downhill. There's no doubt about it. I could tell driving out there where the water went.
But with that being said, our community does have a pressing need for more housing, and this is a great opportunity to increase density without dramatically altering the neighboring community. We have R2 just a few parcels away, and based on the testimony that I've seen, I believe this does meet the requirement for the zone change.
That kind of housing's got to have an exit. You can't just go down there and back out. And I was out there the other day. I was back all the way from Murray back to the garage to the rent. Maybe give them a little car.
All right.
Was that a motion, John?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Anyone else
If
done?
we've got more comments, but if somebody's ready.
Any other comments?
If we feel like we've heard what we need to, we can.
I would like to make a motion. Approving the zone change request from R1 to R2 for 50 coplane, 70 coplane, 90 coplane, 110 coplane, and 130 coplane, based on the major changes of economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan, and which have substantially altered the basic character of such area.
We have a motion on the floor.
So just a quick question,
Sure.
for, Jerry,
Can we,
or
let's wait.
corporate counsel.
Do we get
Okay.
a second and then we go into discussion?
Second.
Okay, we got a second, so now we can do discussion.
So I think Jerry was probably gonna say something. Does it have to be one? Can it be all three, or how does that work according to
You need to
KRS?
make a finding as to whether or not it complies with the comprehensive plan before you make a motion to approve or deny the application.
So that finding would come in the form of the person giving the motion making a statement, or are we saying that we're just getting the book out? I just thought we was gonna.
Let me see your comprehensive plan. No, you're fine. Let me just find something here. Let me find the wording here.
Right, well, and so then he's saying if we're going to make an amendment, or if we're going to discuss how the, I don't know the right terminology to use on the comprehensive plan, economic, changes.
In the motion itself. But if you make a finding that it complies with the comprehensive plan, then you don't need to go to one or two to change it.
I can't remember the exact language that John had, but what I was hearing was that the finding is that there has been major changes on an economic, physical, or social nature that were not anticipated. I think that's what he said. That is the finding to justify the motion.
But according to the comprehensive plan, that's zoned R1. So he would have to make an amendment stating that the comprehensive plan is inaccurate for that, and it should actually be R2. Is that correct?
If someone can help me, what I'm supposed to say, I would.
So I think, let me just try to frame this, I think. So, so the first thing we do is determine if it is in compliance with a comprehensive plan. So I think that statement is, approve the zone change with the finding that it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and specifically the land use element that talks about encouraging a mix of housing densities. And then furthermore, that there have been social or economic changes that have altered or changes that have been made wherein there is a need for additional housing and housing types and units. Something to that effect. So I think you were wanting both, correct? A justification for both. Yes.
Yes.
So can we, if someone accepts that as their motion, can we do that?
I would accept that as a motion.
Right, and that's the only thing I was doing, is like, we're just getting back to the semantics of the.
It's
of
the
word. We
wording.
need so we had the motion in a second, we've gone into discussion, we can allow that motion to, I don't know if we can allow it to die, or if we can just vote against it, and then entertain another motion, with the appropriate language that will address the issues of the comprehensive plan and the zone change.
Okay. Are we saying that indeed it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan? If it is, then therefore the others not necessary. It's my understanding is, remember, if it's within the comprehensive plan, if it's not, then these other three would take precedent. So perhaps we could reword the first motion, although in the plan, yeah, sorry. Actually, the justification does not indicate that it is within the comprehensive plan. It only indicates that there are major changes. And if indeed you're saying that it is in the comprehensive plan, then we could move forward from that. But I don't know if that can be changed here.
If I may,
Okay.
I think it would be very appropriate if we amend the prior motion. I do stand by my petition. It certainly, there has been the economic changes which do justify it. However, comprehensive plan directs you to provide housing. So that does fall within the comprehensive plan. And if I'm gonna get 2 attempts to hit, I'm gonna swing at both. And in this case, it does meet both. So if I may, I would request, if the prior motion was withdrawn and amended, that there be a finding made that due to the social economic changes that the current zoning is inappropriate, and a motion be made on that finding of fact that R2 is appropriate. And Mr. Gilbert, if I'm speaking incorrectly, please, I'll swear you in and you can.
I think the first finding, you look at the map, and it's R1. So it is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan. As the map is, future land map is stated, so then you go, is the zoning inappropriate? And is the proposal more appropriate? Or you can do the change language as Mr. Eibert has accurately stated.
Okay.
So it sounds like then our motion, you made the motion and I seconded, so let's.
I agree,
figure out what we do.
and I think that to get it right
Yeah.
legally,
Yeah.
I think that, in my opinion, that we should vote this down, and then bring it back up with the proper verbiage in it, to where there's no confusion.
Motion may be amended rather than rejected.
May I please amend my motion, Chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Due to 70 Copeland, 90 Copeland, 110 Copeland, and 130 Copeland, hold on. Take it all back.
So it's not in compliance
in
with the
compliance.
comprehensive plan, future land use map.
I should have realized that.
So what Mr. Gilbert's saying is it is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan's future land use map.
Zoned inappropriate.
That,
So the justification is,
that
you
there
got it,
is-
Betty. You got this, Betty.
So I believe that the proper motion would be finding that the proposal is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan, it being zoned R1. Then you make you move to approve the proposal because there have been changes of an economic, physical, and social, that verbiage.
I would like to withdraw my motion, and I will let somebody else try this one.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try this again.
Up or down? Or-
No, it's been
Okay.
withdrawn.
Okay, I just,
It's been withdrawn. I agreed with withdrawal. Oh dear. Okay, when we move that, the zone change request to change from R1, single-family residence to R2, two-family residential district is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan. However, since there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan, and has substantially altered the basic character of such area, remove adoption of that.
We have a motion on the floor.
I would like to second that motion.
Second from Mr. Iper. Any questions, concerns, discussion? We'll move to the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to explain my vote.
Okay, sure.
And I think I speak for all the commissioners, is I think we've heard all your concerns about the drainage problems that are out there. But I also want to explain that, as you may have picked up, is that Planning and Zoning Commission, we don't have as much power as a lot of people think we do. And we can only make a decision, as we went back and forth on this language, based what Kentucky revised statutes allow us to do. So while I don't like the idea of, well, I do think there's a drainage issue, problem out there. As a commission, we can't do anything about that, and we can only address it based on the evidence from the comprehensive plan. And that is why I think all of us voted in favor, but I think we all think that there's a problem there and we can't fix it. This commission cannot fix it. I hope that's understandable.
I appreciate those comments. I think that's proper, absolutely, for sure.
City council, on the other hand, could fix it. Well, and this is the other problem, y'all in between a rock and a hard place, because Berea city limits and Madison County, right? So you have to get both Berea City Council and Madison County Commissioners to step up and work together to fix that problem out there. I wish you best of luck.
So I had that count as a 3-2, is that correct? On the vote, okay. I was just double checking my count on the vote. We had 3 for and 2 against on the vote, yes, okay. All right,
I believe that concludes my business. With everybody's permission, if I may be excused.
yes,
Appreciate y'all's
absolutely.
time and attention.
Okay, so that does address that, and that was we will close the public hearing at this time, and the vote is tallied. Thank you. So we do, yes. We have closed the public hearing and we are now addressing just in new business. I assume, let's see, lots 340 and 350 Pauline Drive, Harbor Villas Townhomes, Innovative Property Investments, W&P Investments Developers. This is a plan with a waiver of a requirement for 50-foot lot frontage. I know. We should have said, you go tell them that we said that you guys need to fix all that. Tell the city council to go fix that stuff.
My turn.
So, yes, we were.
Patrick Sowers. We're proposing this 40 townhome lots. It's similar to the one we did on the opposite street that you guys approved for us. Not really much to say other than they're 2-story homes that we've laid out. We're discussing some ranches with it. They have garages that can be sold individually. There'll be an HOA set up that'll take care of the common area maintenance, the mowing, and that sort of thing. And also the streets are private. I think the one thing we need from you guys is I believe Amanda said we need a variance because these face the private street. They don't face a public right-of-way. And your regs say that they should face a public right-of-way, which is not practical here. Amanda and I have discussed the possibility of making these city streets, but that's probably not real feasible. They're real short, real cul-de-sacs, and not something you guys want, is what I understand pretty much. We've addressed all the drainage issues, which for lack of say the previous powers, some of the documentation wasn't it was hard to follow. Would that be accurate, Amanda? And so we've tried to address all those concerns, and I think met all of the necessary requirements from the development review team and from Amanda's help as well, and with the city engineer. So that's kind of where we are. There's 40 of them, about 4 acres is what it sits on, maybe a little less. If you look out there now, it's right by, if you turn into the dual driveway by the Quality Inn, there's a big pile of dirt sitting there. It's been probably there for 20 years, and give or take. So this is one of the last pieces left there that the goal is to have all that blacktop cleaned up and looking like something hopefully this year. So any questions, thoughts?
So the request is before the request before the Planning Commission is that, is a waiver for the requirement of 50 feet of public street frontage. So, our requirements, say that each lot shall front on a public way for 50 feet. So, the way this is laid out is this is really just right now 2 tracts of land. But what will happen with townhome development is that each of these will become an individual lot, and they would front on a private road instead of that public way. So the other option would be to kind of run them along Pauline Drive and have this series of driveways, which I think from a safety standpoint it becomes problematic. What we have done from the city's perspective to try to make sure that because as you all know, I'm really big on maintenance, long-term maintenance. And whose maintenance responsibility is that? And making sure that we spell that out. So, they have agreed to have an HOA where, we have that shared maintenance responsibility spelled out for this private drive, and that each, future tenant / owner, would be given that documentation up front to know that they have that responsibility.
And the HOA also would take care of the pond, the drainage pond, which we've all been challenged with as we've kind of cleaned up some of the different issues we've had with that responsibility. So that's clearly spelled out. Trust me, that's the first piece of paper you sign in her office, okay?
Who's gonna maintain this pond? That's question number one.
First one. I even got a second right here. He's sitting here, he's not even in the meeting.
I think probably question number one is the pond gonna be big enough to handle the
yeah.
water runoff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the maintenance is secondary. I'm just curious about the water.
Yeah, so it has, we have had it reviewed from the development review team and our city engineer. And, there is an existing pond out there on this lot. And so what will happen is that pond will basically be moved to the center of the lot. And, we've hashed out the stormwater quite a bit. This development was set up with regional retention. So there's actually a series of ponds that kind of go down from Fincastle to Beaumont and to Calico 2 and on down to 595. One of my concerns is we are very close to, as you all know, a floodplain area which is down on 595. So we're actually just in a meeting yesterday clarifying some final stormwater engineering calls on some existing piping that was out here. One thing that we are going to get with this development is paving of this portion of Pauline Drive, which should allow the stormwater infrastructure that has been there for 20 years that has not been working properly because the pavement wasn't up enough to actually get the water into where it was going. It ought to help the problem. So, you know, the idea is to get this developed, to get our roads paved so that all that regional stormwater that was put in years ago, and with the addition of these newly developed lots, that it all will function properly and better than it is now.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
While it's a waiver requirement for being on a public driveway, is it not a 50-foot on the private as well? What is the frontage on the private?
So we don't have a requirement, but for townhomes, their minimum lot width is 20 feet. So they have met the minimum lot width or frontage, same thing.
Okay.
So 20 feet's their
20
frontage
feet.
requirement.
Okay.
I actually have wouldn't really be part of this, but if I just show you kind of what they should look like, would that help you maybe a little bit? This is what they're proposed over on the side of the garage. Just a different kind of house. That sounds expensive, but the 200 range and it's like the proposed. We've talked about that before. Just to give you an idea. I thought of it last minute. I knew Miss Betty wanted to see him.
So we're looking for a motion here to approve a development plan with waiver for the 50-foot. Do we need to add the language about the maintenance and all that stuff?
It's already addressed.
It's already addressed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was another development we did that with.
Yeah, that was a little minor plat that we did.
Melody,
But that one was not part of a development plan, so I didn't have the opportunity to get that maintenance document with a development plan.
I like, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the development plan with a waiver of the 50-foot lot frontage for 340 and 350 Pauline Drive.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and we have a second. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay,
I'd also like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
motion and second. All in favor, aye.